Judging distance. I learned a long time ago as a young commando and a sniper about judging distance. And this is something I developed based off of what I was taught in U.S. Army Sniper School and Special Forces Sniper School. And here's the way this works. I learned really early on in December 01, about human beings. And really, what I'm talking about is the fact that a human being never stands still for more than 2 to 5 seconds. So everything I was taught was dial my dope, look out of my scope, dial my dope, judge the distance, use a laser rangefinder, do whatever you got to do, then come back in the scope to find the target. The problem was when you'd come out of the scope and come back into the scope, what would happen is you would lose the target, you'd have to refine the target. And then when you're dealing with high power scopes, they call this getting lost in the scope, is you're gonna have to dial down, reacquire the target, then dial back up on the target. And because human beings don't really stand still that long, this is very hard to do. So if you needed to take quick shots right now that was gonna save you or your teammates' lives, this procedure didn't work. So I had to come up with a way in the field in Afghanistan to kind of figure out what am I looking at and how do I become much quicker at judging distance without having to come out of my scope. So these days, fast forward to these days, and what I see is, as I train snipers around the country and guys that use carbines and military and law enforcement, I teach them these simple rules of judging distance. So here's kind of what they are. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down, right, by distance to 600 yards. So check this out: 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. Now I only go to 600 because judging with the naked eye past 600, I'll show you in a second. So at about 100 yards, you can see a face. You can recognize somebody, you can tell what they look like. So at 100 yards, you can see the face. Really simple. 200 yards, you can't recognize a face. You can't see what someone looks like. You can't even tell any facial features. So at 200 yards, the guy has no face. 300 yards. 300 yards is a little different, right? So I can't see a face because it's past 200. And then what happens is, as a person does an action, as they hold a gun or hold a machine gun or anything like that, what happens is you can't see the hands. The hands go away. You see the arms move, you see the gun, but the hands go away. So at 300, you can't see hands. 400 yards. 400 yards, you can't see hands because you know they're past 300. The next thing you look at is the head. The head goes away at 400, so a person no longer has a head at 400 yards. 500, as people walk around, they have light between their legs. So as a person's moving, you can judge how far they are by looking between their legs. And at 500, the light goes away between their legs, so they move, but you no longer see their legs independently. So no light between legs. And the last one's 600. 600 is where they get really tricky. And 600, and I'm going to show you what they look like at 600. Every human being, no matter what they look like a fat little triangle at 600 yards. This is what they look like. It's a grain of pepper, right? So the reason I don't go past this is because if you're looking at a grain of pepper, you need to be able to see more, know more, and do more if you're going to pass this point. But inside of 600 yards, with most carbines, this is an 85% chance of hitting if you just know a little bit, right? And know your dope. So, right, let me recap. 100, face. 200, no face. 300, there's no hands. 400, there's no longer a head. 500, no light between the legs. 600, they look like a fat little triangle. And that's judging distance. I'm John Shrek McPhee, the Sheriff of Baghdad. Check me out at SOB Tactical if you want to know more information about judging distance.